A wonderful good day, good afternoon to everybody who is watching us today, our pre-Valentine's Day Real Talk session. My name is Gaby Burt. I'm the International Director for the Journey, have been so for 27 years now. And this little program started a little while ago when we kind of decided to bring everyday issues publicly on the table and have a chat about it. And today is something I haven't done before. So this is a first for me. This is all about exposure, but we're talking about our relationship. So I've actually invited my husband of 40 years, and I've also invited Claire and Arnold Timmerman, who many of you may know, who have been around the journey for a very long time and have been married for 18 years. So a total of 56 years of being in marriage between the four of us. So I think it's quite an accomplishment. And we just felt like it may be a great idea to talk about the kind of things that have worked, that haven't worked, what we realized, how we grew in our relationships, and just share that. So it's a kind of a round robin conversation. And because I haven't done this before, it's kind of, it could go anywhere, you know. So let's just send a lot of love our way. We're going to just be really honest, be real, as Real Talk suggests, and just get started. So first of all, welcome, Cliff. Thank you very much for joining me here today. Thank you, Arnold and Claire, for joining me here today as well. And, you know, we kind of given a little overview of the kind of things that we might bring into discussion. And so I think the first line actually said, you know, how we navigate through personal issues, difficulties, and conflicts. And so I'm just going to throw that one out there and just say what kind of things how do you navigate when you run into difficulties or issues, and what even might they be? So if anybody wants to start us off, just to get started, and then we kind of make this an open conversation and go all the way around.
Cool. I can definitely start this off knowing that what brought me to the journey was actually relationship issues. I've been on the hunt for the one true love since the age of 4 that I can remember even. And it was a painful sort of hunt and chase, which, you know, the relationships became smaller and smaller and smaller. So by the time that I said, okay, this no longer works and I need some help, because I could feel that there was a struggle internally, and I'd come to the journey, I then found out what was sort of, you know, underlying the underlying root cause, basically, of that looking for that one true love, which brought me back to memories of really dear friends of mine who were female friends at that age, whom I had to leave behind because we were moving to a different part of Holland at that time. And because of that realization that it was not just me struggling with relationships for no reason, but that it was actually underpinned by something. Once I met Claire and we had that spark that was ignited between us, we got very clear together, like, we don't want this to be any other chase or hunt of some projected idea, like this one true love, this romanticized version. It has to feel true in each moment. And we didn't know what that meant. As a matter of fact, I think the first 6 months that we were together, we fought more than equally as much as we loved each other.
Yes, definitely
but
true.
Every single time we took whatever was igniting the fight and the struggle, we took that to then do the journey work on ourselves and look at what else is stored within our body that is kind of creating this stress between us. And then once we had both done our journey work, we would come back together and have a proper talk about the issue that was there. And we always knew that no matter how deep, hard, and ugly the fight, we would not use that as an excuse to leave the relationship either. We somehow knew that this was for us to explore. And I don't know why, but after 6 months, it was, 6 months of love, fighting, newness, lots of journey work. all of a sudden there was this, as if someone switched the key in the lock, and it was like it became completely different from that moment on. So it's, in terms of whenever there are issues, we do talk about them first, as any couple would do, regardless of journey work or not. We try to convince each other in a way of our perception, and then and our point of view, and then of course I'm always right. That's the key point in any relationship.
Actually, what really happens is I stay really quiet and go very, very internal with things for a while in a really bad mood. And then my Dutch husband, because I'm very English, so we don't discuss feelings. And then my lovely Dutch husband actually says, hold on, let's talk about this.
I'll push a bit more.
Push a bit more.
It doesn't work. And then we get to the point, it's like, okay, let's internally what is happening here, and then we come back together, and then it's like, okay, so what have you learned from this, and what are the questions that are here between us? So that's a long answer to the short question, but that's how we would resolve conflict, is by first being human. And it becomes messy. It always does a bit when we're in a relationship, but we want the best for each other, we want the best for ourselves, so blah, 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 blah. And then there's the, okay, that doesn't work, go internal, do our work, come back out, and it's like, okay, now what? So.
Beautiful, thank you. I'm there's a little difference between you as a couple and us as a couple, because we've publicly said that Cliff and I have been in marriage for 40 years. You guys have been in marriage for 18 years. So you met each other in the journey. So I remember when you guys met. Well, we got married in 82, so that was long before I came actually to the journey and met Brandon. So we were kind of navigating through our conflicts, issues at the time, in, coming from a place of love, appreciation, honesty. And yet when the journey happened, something really, really shifted. And some of the issues that I hadn't, I'm another person like you, Claire. I don't just come out with it, So I internalized some of the things. And I recognized that I was projecting, or I had been projecting a lot, and it was the same for us. I think when the journey started, that we kind of found a common ground in truth and worked through some of the stuff. How long it took, I can't remember, but it was work in progress, I think. And Cliff was in a marriage before, so I wasn't in a marriage. I wasn't in a marriage before, so it was my first marriage, and for Cliff, the second marriage. And there are 2 children also, so there were lots of reasons for conversations, for issues to come up, to work through, and I guess the journey work really made it possible for us to always come back home and look at our own issues and clear it, and it kind of became easier and clearer as we went along. How about you, Cliff?
At the outset, I learned really quickly that the wife is always right.
That's very good learning. Very good.
Very quick learning. But joking aside, the one thing I realized also, and especially I credit the work. I mean, we can't deny. If it wasn't for the work, we probably wouldn't be together. And I really do credit it, because for me, rather than meet what was here, that was getting in the way of whatever the issue was at the time, I would rather run away. That was the truth then. And so over a period of time, and it's got easier and easier, to a point where now it was actually very funny. Even in the car this morning, we're driving we're driving to Pilates, and I actually said something in the car, and Gaby said, "Oh, okay, whatever." And then we're leaving Pilates, and I said, "Oh, by the way, I think we just pop into town. I want to go to the ATM." And she said, "Well, have you got your card?" and I'd already told her that I had my card. Previously, in a former life, I would have said, I just told you that. Weren't you listening? I actually told you that I had in a previous life. And I just swallowed and went, that's okay. She obviously didn't hear. It's okay. It's not a problem. And it was gone. It was finished. It was over. So, yeah, the learning is that rather than for me to go into a story up here, like I used, and it's just, what is this? And if it's something that triggers, and we made a vow, I don't want to go into vows, but we made a vow that we would deal with it in the moment. So I think a big one for us is I'll throw that out there, because we won't go to sleep if there's an issue. We'll deal with it.
Yeah.
We'll deal with it in that moment. And it's paid dividends, because it feels healthy. I'm not, because I for one could easily go to bed, go to sleep, because I sleep like a baby. I'm 5 minutes done.
I don't.
So
I don't.
That's been a biggie, for me to actually go, oh, okay, then let's deal with it now, which I previously wouldn't have done. I would have gone, no, I'm okay. I'm all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll deal with it tomorrow. It's all right. Let's leave it.
I think in relationship, for me, it doesn't seem real to say we've been married for 40 years. It never seems that way. And yet there are, when I look over the span of these 40 years, there are a few really major situations that have carried us forward in our relationship. And when in the journey, for those of you who are in the journey, you probably already know about making vows and how powerful that is. And also to undoing vows if they are of an unhealthy kind. And so that was something that very early in our relationship, I wasn't thinking about making new vows. I was more concerned about what vow have I made, and until death do us part, that kind of, I'm your obedient wife until the end of our days. And we didn't have a church marriage, so it was in a registry office in London. And so I was trying to find out what vow I actually had made. And regardless of what it was, I wanted to clear that and start fresh. And then for years, there was nothing. And I also would love to credit Kevin and Brandon here. So Brandon, the founder of The Journey, Brandon Bays, her husband, Kevin, been with us. We've been dear friends from the word go, from the beginning. And I think their openness in relationship, their truthfulness in relationship has been a beautiful signpost for us as well. And I do remember when they got married, I think it was in 97 or 98, they made beautiful vows, and it never occurred to me that this is something we should do. And then it was only a few years ago, I think it was just prior to COVID, we were in Australia and we were talking about marriage vows because dear friends of ours got married. And Brandon told at a dinner conversation how important it is to have vows, because we kind of are held within the framework of those vows. And when we came away from that dinner, I said to Cliff, we've never done that.
Yeah.
In all those years. And I'm talking about, this is now 2019. I said, in all those years, we haven't done that. And we've also been aware that there's been a few issues that kind of kept coming up over and over and over. And I thought, you know what, why don't we? And so we actually did make our vows. We did a course in Rishikesh, a Karma Cleanse course, and we used that particular time to write our vows and do it. And that's been a major step, I think, in our relationship because, and that's only, 4 years now. So, so it's like, there's been a few times in our marriage where something kind of really gave a new direction and a new potency and beauty to the relationship that we are in. So I hope you feel the same, my love.
Absolutely.
We spent quite a long time, didn't we, making our vows when we got married?
The whole week.
Yeah, we did. Well, it felt like a long time. It was a real conscious choice of what we wanted to say and how we wanted to be with each other. I remember it being, we would write them and then refine them, check if they were true for each other and if they were pertinent, and rewrite them and do them again. I can remember 2 of them, I think.
Yeah.
But I do believe that they underpin our relationship very much so.
Yeah. Well, the one that came up in ours, and we're talking marriage, and I think at some point we might want to open it up more to relationship. But
yes,
marriage, because for me, I never wanted to get married. That was not in the cards for me. It was not something I dreamt of. It was not something I desired. I didn't want to start a family either. I loved my life. I was just wanting to enjoy it with someone that shared similar ideas or maybe opposite ideas, and then we can enjoy that together. But when it showed up as an idea, which was during one of our abundance courses that we have within the journey, to get married, and that it would take place in India, I could see that all happen, and then I could feel the change happening as well from relationship to marriage, because to me that those are completely different vibrations, if you want to call it that. And then once we started looking at getting married, how we would want to concretize that, and then we looked at vows based on what we learned also in terms of the power of vows, the vows, how they can limit us or how they can free us, in whatever direction they go. And when we had that one, there was the one that I don't know if there was Brendan's suggestion or not, or if we came up with it ourselves. I don't remember. But it was this vow that we said we wanted to see each other fresh as if for the first time in each moment. And what that meant was very significant probably to both of us. And personally, I can say for me, it was very significant because I always had this, prior to us having a relationship, this idea of this is what a relationship should look like. This is what it will give me. And therefore, there was always the projection into the future based on an experience or a whole lot of experiences I had in the past. So it would always be ping-ponging between past and future, past and future, and never see the person in front of me or with me. And to make that vow, it allowed me to enjoy the change that's there, to not project into that relationship sphere any desires about the future that are based on my previous experiences, but to just go like, this is what's here. What can I enjoy in this, and what can I explore in this together with her? So it became a very powerful vow. We don't talk about it that often, but we can feel every time we stop and look at our marriage that specific vow seems to have the strongest power in everything that we do. It's like sort of a stop and reassess without having to look back or having to look forward. It's more like what's here.
Yeah, one of the other ones that really sticks out for me is supporting each other with our hearts. I can't remember exactly how it was worded, but supporting each other with whatever the other person's heart is pulling them towards. And I think there's an importance in that, in a recognition of us being individuals and loving the other and supporting the other in their heart's desires, wherever that takes them, because then there's not an attachment to it having to be together all the time. It's a real honoring.
That's so true. I'm very aware of that too in our vows. And we have quite a funny story when we wrote our vows, because it was, as I mentioned, it was part of a karma cleanse retreat that we did on the banks of Mother Ganga, the river. So it was done, and this is very much about clearing old stuff, clearing karma, not just from this life, but from our generations and stuff, which was hugely powerful. And during that time, we every time we had processes, we took time. So we would have taken quite a few days to kind of outline our vows and tighten them and rewrite it. And so I'm going to let Cliff finish the story, because this is really, really funny what happened, because we finalized, we did it, you know, we finished the vows, and we sat on the balcony overlooking the river, and it was like great. And this was handwritten, this wasn't on the laptop to kind of be press safe, this was a piece of paper.
So Gaby passed. So I said, have we finished? You know, have we finished? She passes me the piece of paper, you know, like that. Now we're open to, we're on this balcony, like over, and it was very high up. The river is way down. I mean, you know, a long way down. I want to like almost skyscraper, like, you know, it's like way down. So she's giving me this piece of paper, and I'm looking at it, and and then I as I look at it, the wind takes the paper, takes it, and it's gone, and it's floating over the balcony. Yeah, it's floating away. Oh my goodness! Well, like, come on. And
this is days of work.
Comes back again. Goes up against the railing. I went, oh, thank you very much. Really? It was like the another ganger, like went, yeah, they're good. They're good.
Yeah.
We can have that.
So yeah, wow. It was actually a beautiful conversation. I mean, we both sat there like idiots, and it's like, oh my God. And it must have blown out like 5 meters beyond our balcony. Yeah. Wow. And the wind brought it back and then smacked it against the inside of the balcony for me to pick up.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, you know.
Thank you.
So anyway, if anybody wants to know what our kind of vows looked like, I'm happy to share ours. I've asked Cliff if he's okay, and he's okay. And actually Arnold and Claire said that theirs were actually not that dissimilar, and that they had an additional few in there. So Chris, just put it on the screen for a minute. And it's kind of, we are being held in those vows, and still to this day. So this is a 4-year-old document. We're going to have a celebration, Cliff, on the 15th of March, from what I can see here.
Yes.
But this is what our vows looked like, and you know, seeing each other freshly, newly, is part of that. And to be honest to each other, to hold each other to a high standard, and not keep each other overshadowed or imprisoned in any way. So that's the beauty of having vows. And so anyone listening here, and you're in a fixed relationship, and you don't have that, maybe it may be something that you both, and you need to both agree to it. You know, it's no good if one does and the other one doesn't, but that you both agree, and then you can step into this. And we had a beautiful celebration. Brandon was the minister, and we had friends around, and so people witnessed the vows that we read to each other. So it was like another kind of wedding ceremony, which was very, very beautiful. Anyway, thanks, Chris, for sharing that. Mm-hmm. I talked about milestones. Do you know, there was another milestone that I hope I can get that across, most importantly, because, as I mentioned before, our marriage started long before the journey. And it was, I can't remember, I think it was around about my 50th birthday, early 2000s. So it's quite some time ago. And I was a little bit accident prone at that time, which both Arnold and Claire may even remember. And I was kind of looking at the final accident that I had was an elbow fracture, and it kind of knocked me out completely. It actually knocked me out for a couple of months, which it shouldn't. But I was incapable of working. And this 2 months was a time for me where I thought, okay, I need to clear my life up. I've had accident after accident. Something's wrong. So, and I looked at everything. I looked at my job. I looked at my relationship. And it's like, what is it? What is not working? And I realized at that point that in our relationship, and I'm talking really honestly here, that I had, it's almost like I had one foot in and one foot out. And there was always a wishful thinking of if he could only change, if he could only be that or do that, or that version that was there wasn't, and that was my problem. It wasn't Cliff's problem, but that was my thinking at the back of my mind. And it's like there was always something that still could improve with my other, with my partner. And somehow you probably remember this book.
Yeah.
The Truth is from Papaji. Papaji is Brandon's master, and or enlightened master. He's no longer in physical form, but he's always kind of, I think, underpinned all of our lives. Always, Papaji kind of is in our lives. And I got the book out and I got to the section of relationships, marriage, and sexuality. And I just want to read the first paragraph, because that was the pivotal point. And it says, the relationships you keep have a great effect on you. You become what you associate yourself with. So stay only in holy company. Only travel with those in the same boat. Nothing is better than satsang, so keep your friends here. Associate only with those going in the same direction, and go to truth at any cost. And when I read that, then I thought, and then he talks more about relationship. It's like, he said, when you know that you have a partner and you are in the same boat, don't think about anything. Just you need to make a full commitment. And it was that little section in Papaji's book that made me revisit all those times when it wasn't quite 100%, where I wasn't quite accepting, where I wasn't 100% committing. And I've made the final decision when I did. And I think that was probably the biggest shift that I remember in our marriage, because I realized how much I hadn't seen, the kind of projections that were going on, the kind of things that I was blaming Cliff for that were the same in me, and so that was kind of the early 2000 years. And that was a time when we were in India, and we had new wedding rings made. And that was another time when we kind of refreshed, not vows, but I spoke honestly and just told Cliff where I'd been coming from and apologized. And started fresh at that time. And I think projecting and seeing stuff in our person opposite us is something that is so easily done. And to really own it, first of all, look at here, and then always check. So that was one of the big milestones for me. And I have never, that was really a decision, it was like a door closed behind me, and that was that. So I don't know if anybody else has anything similar or can share in that.
If I could just follow, is that okay?
Yes, yes, please.
You want to speak?
No.
Yeah, it's actually, it was like, and for me, that was my own invitation to dive in as well, because when I saw the truth of what you were prepared to engage in, that gave me the invitation and the opportunity to look deeper at myself, to look inward, rather than analyze it as I would normally do. And so I want to thank you for that. I don't think I've ever. I want not just thank you. I want to acknowledge because that's what it did for me. It was although you say one door, your door closed and my door opened. And it gave me the opportunity to walk through.
Thank you.
And explore more.
Yeah, I think that was about 17 years ago, you know. So we there have been a few milestones in our lives, that's for sure. And yeah, we got new wedding rings at that point. I think I remember that. And mine just fit me.
We need some more new ones. I lost mine.
we need another new ring now.
Actually, I just want to throw this on just as a follow-on, because I made a few notes and I threw them away eventually. But what struck me when I was feeling into this morning, and it comes back to, we're all simple. Sorry, well, not simple. We're all similar, but we're different. You know, and the fact is, and I'm putting this out to everyone, you know, as much as we're similar and different, you like green, I like blue. It's like when you open to that and give someone the benefit of where they're coming from and the benefit of where you're coming from, but also open to a point where you're willing to talk about it. And the other thing that came up for me when this started was real talk. And it was like, well, actually, it's talk real. Or really talk, you know, from that other place, not from the, oh, hello, this is, you know, the real you. And explore together.
Yeah. It's so true, Cliff, because I hand over to you, Arnold, in a minute, but it's just, I think, especially with marriage and our upbringing, our backgrounds, you know, there is so many ideations and concepts in that, and to find your way through that, you know, to make it your own, to recognize when you all of a sudden have your mother's or your father's belief systems hanging out and insist that things should be a certain way. And I'm so grateful every day. I'm so grateful to the work that we do, to the journey, for recognizing these kind of dinosaurs that can pop up, and you got to be vigilant. You got to be you have to want to see them in order to work through it or clear that stuff, you know. Anyway, sorry, I heard you just starting something, and I
wanted to say something along those lines. If you look at the relationship, the ideas that are existing about relationships, I mean, it's almost hard to even reach the standards that is put out there in books and programs, etc., about finding your soulmate and defining your ultimate relationship, etc. You look at it, and it's a recipe for disaster as far as I'm concerned. My belief system around, you know, my about twin souls or something like that, or my soul sister, soul brother, but also my soulmate, they're completely separate from relationships as far as I'm concerned, because I have different experiences. So even the idea of finding my soulmate and then being in this relationship forever, and it looks like this and this and that, takes me away from what I'm meeting in this moment right now. So that's where the struggle happens, you know, straight away. And I've seen that so many times, not just in myself and also even in our relationship, but especially also in other relationships out there, where because we believe that the relationship has to be a certain way, so therefore it will give us something, we're not actually looking at, you know, what am I meeting here right now? Whom am I meeting here? And how does this make me feel right now? There's so much based on that, you know, the chase that I was part of, the hunt that I was, you know, pursuing as well, which doesn't seem to work. It doesn't seem to give us any lasting sense of contentment in the growth that relationship offers. Because to me, it's always looked as like, you know, we've come together and it's great that we are together, but that is not the relationship. The relationship is a third sort of energy entity is, it's a third part. It's the one and two makes this third that we can then look at and grow in and explore together while we're still our individual beings. And that takes the pressure of you should be more like this or I should be more like that, which always comes in because we're human and that's how we've been conditioned. And we always come from our own perception anyway, but realizing that that's not where the relationship is actually forming and developing and growing, and that we can enjoy that, once we really open with that beauty, it's like, oh, it's so rich, it's so, it's so juicy to be in a relationship as such. And it comes with the ups and downs and the discomfort and the beautiful comfort zones that show up. But I've been really, really in awe of that aspect of relationship, where it's not about I want you to change. And I've been very much a culprit in that way. I've been very much looking at clients saying, you need to see this or you need to do this, which can be a trap of also the work that we do, because we get experiences and insights. It's like, now I want you to have that, which comes maybe from a good part of us. And at the same time, it projects it onto our partner. And it's like, And funny enough, what you have and what we have, of course, is also not just the parental conditioning that's in there, but even the cultural conditioning, because Austrian English, Dutch English, I mean, it couldn't be more different at times, so instead of them projecting all of the stuff into what we believe is the relationship, us, it's like, well, let's explore what is actually true for me within the relationship, what is true for you, and to be listening to each other in that way and with those ears. I find it completely different from what I've done before, and I love it still. I really value that. Yeah.
Me too.
Beautiful.
Me too.
No, I need to use that little gap here and just say that for anybody listening, and if you don't know the journey, if you have if you hear us talk about the work that we do or the work that has kind of woven its way into the fabric of our relationship, into our marriages, it is the journey. It has been the journey. It still is. And we also want to make this invitation that this work, since COVID, it's now online. There is workshops in all the time zones in various languages on an ongoing basis. We have reduced the price to a silly number now, so that it's possible for everybody to join. And we just hope that, if you are in a relationship and you struggle, maybe there is a way that you can, first of all, look at yourself, use journey work to come clear in yourself, and then sit down with your partner. If you have somebody who is open to doing the same, it's a milestone in everybody's relationship. It's not entirely necessary, but you need to be true with you. You need to be coming from a place of honesty, and honesty isn't one of those. Honesty means not saying you should be this and you should be doing that. It should be, when this happens, I feel like this, or when this happens, this is what makes me feel like. And to look at my own issues first and then see if something needs to change in the relationship. But to please use journey work. It's never been easier. Chris has just shared it. It's in the chat box. Look it up if you've not already done this work. I can only wholeheartedly recommend it. And we also wanted to talk about, sorry, Claire, what did you want to say?
I was going to say, I can wholeheartedly recommend it too. It's absolutely changed my life. And
I want to bring your wish list from the abundance retreat. So once you've done the journey intensive, the next retreat is an abundance retreat. And Claire is one of those people who had a list like that. And I think it was about 70 items on there, including a husband and a house.
Yeah, I was very specific in the husband, because I had been in, and I'll apologize for our dogs that you can hear barking in the background, our other babies that are here. But I had been in very not very great relationships until I came to the journey. I'd always found I'd been in very unhealthy dynamics, and I had the most amazing journey process, which I can wholeheartedly say just seemed to somehow clear out that whole attraction to those negative relationships. And then I was single for 3 years, I think it was, and didn't attract anyone in my life for 3 years. And I remember going to the abundance retreat, and part of the abundance retreat is that we get to write down what we'd love to manifest in our lives, what life wants to manifest through us, and how life would like our lives to live us. And so for me, it was time to really manifest a relationship, and I was really specific in who that would be, how he would look, the color of his hair and the color of his eyes, and that he would live in another country and how often I'd see him. And it was pages and pages and pages, and there he is.
I got to read it. I didn't know that it was there, and it was on her bedside table when I think it was one of the first times I came to her house in Wales, coming from Holland. And I saw it. I was like, "What is this?" I said, "Oh, you can read it. It's the Abundance Journal." And I read it, and there was this relationship, and it was like tall, 6'3", not gray hair, dark curly hair, blue eyes, loves adventure travel, loves this kind of work. But it started as an overseas relationship, and was like one thing after the other. And I was like, "This is freaky." I was reading myself. I was like, I've got no chance. I can't say no to this relationship. It's already done. But that was coming out of her abundance retreat, in terms of once she cleared out all the information that was kind of sabotaging her being happy in a relationship, apparently. Sure. Then there was this clean slate, and I was like, oh yes, now let's look at this kind of relationship. And it was literally looking at words that were describing me, and I'd never seen anything like that. Yeah. So it's very very special. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
it's been an amazing time over the years to share. I introduced you by name, but Arnold has been at the beginning. You did sound for us, and then Claire has been in administration. Then you took off for a little while and went to live in. Well, you had a baby, and who is now nearly 12.
Yeah.
And then you ended up going to Spain, and somehow you both kind of found your way back. And Arnold, you are doing our European Journey Intensives, co-hosting in the English language, which has been the case since June 2020. And so you may have met Arnold in one of those events. And if you haven't done it, then you will, Arnold. Arnold will be co-hosting the event with Brandon. And Claire, if you see Claire's smiling face at the end of a letter, so she's the fairy in the background, and so that's and we've known each other since you've known each other a long time. Yeah. So it seemed natural to have you guys here on this conversation, and I'm just as it's Valentine's Day tomorrow, sorry, what did you say, Arnold?
Well, I just remembered also when I came to the journey, and there were quite a lot of relationships at that time within the journey core as well. It was really interesting to become part of that, because that was quite new to me, that there was a company. It was then within that self-growth and self-help tools kind of environment. But there were a lot of couples at that time from all kinds, and hetero, gay, anything in between. It didn't matter, but there was a definite cohesive team of relationships, and I really always valued that, because even when relationships then also split up, it wasn't always ugly either. What I mean by that, it wasn't like these people would never talk with each other anymore, because they kept using journey work to be real with themselves, because the journey doesn't add any ideas of relationship. It's more like clear out whatever doesn't serve your relationship. So in that sense, we saw quite a few relationships come and go within the journey setting, which also it was quite beautiful to watch the life and death of relationships as such.
Sure.
And I remember people coming to the journey and say, oh, I want to be like you and Claire, like Cliff and Gaby, like Brandon and Kevin. I want a relationship, and therefore my husband needs to work for the journey or needs to do this journey work. And I think what it taught me, being within the journey core with all the relationships around us coming and going as such, that it's not about that. It's not about an ideology or you have to do the same thing. It's about becoming real with ourselves. And if you feel that there's struggle here and you're willing to use these tools to uncover and clear out, fabulous. We know that it works. But there's also people who have a different way of doing that, who are much more sort of, I don't know, instinctive or intuitive with it, and then say, well, I want to change this. And that seems to really work well with someone else who's been using the journey work to get clear in their relationship as well. And they've stayed together. So I wanted to say that because I think relationship is in and of itself a big part of the journey's exploration in a way, what we offer, because we always look at ourselves and therefore how we relate to the world. So therefore it is part of it, and yet there's no ideology in it or nothing to achieve in that sense either.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that from the get-go within the whole journey work, but also within the organization and the people, like yourselves that we've been traveling the world with, that it was never about this is how it should be. It's more like just be true here and see where that takes you. And I think there's such freedom in that.
And what a beautiful gift to still be together, and to enjoy life. I mean, you guys sitting in Spain, we're sitting in Greece, and it's like, hallelujah, what a beautiful life, so much gratitude in pretty much everything we do, in the work that we do, the way we live, the way we are with each other. And so it's just a constant bowing and a constant thank you, And so I really want to take a moment to thank Kevin and Brandon for the work that they are doing, continue to bring into this world, and for sharing it with everyone. And I've just realized I made a little, there's a little note in our description about, maybe a tip for Valentine's. Come to the Journey Intensive.
Yes.
Great gift.
If you haven't already done it, or bring your partner. Perfect Valentine's gift is get them the Journey Intensive. It's actually next weekend.
You come with me, otherwise the relationship is done.
It's over.
Great Valentine's gift.
That was a joke, but anyway. I think I don't have any more to share. I don't know if anyone else has anything else to share here of any benefit, but I think we've kind of covered most of what works, what doesn't work, the do's and don'ts.
Yeah, if there is such a list.
Yeah.
In our case, I think in general, the absolute do is, if you are feeling drawn to the journey work, to use it to clear out any of the sort of the driving forces of any sort of unhealthy and unlucky patterns in relationships. If you feel like there's struggle in relationship, you can use the beautiful tools. They're very simple, elegant, to uncover what has been driving that. Once you clear that out, there's a change that happens within, and therefore it will happen also within the relationship.
Yeah.
You can't promise then that the relationship will continue till death do us part, but you can at least get to enjoy relationship much more from an authentic and free point of view. And I think that's, as you said, the gratitude, that's what we experience with each other as well. It's like that we're allowed to do that and be that in that way, thanks to this work that's there. I think, every day it's a beautiful day because of that. Yeah.
What are the don'ts then?
I don't think there are don'ts. I don't think don'ts is. I think it's
we always speak everything in the positive. So whatever we spoken in the positive, whatever the negative is, are the don'ts.
Actually, I really want to thank you for that share, Arnold. In regards to the couples, and I think we could actually, without reading them all off now, because we all know how many positive situations there are, and I think we could get testimonials from them. You know, and I think you know, they're not handfuls. It's a lot of couples that are in, even though they may have not stayed together, they're healthy.
Yeah.
You know, they're healthier individually as well.
Or moved on healthily.
That's really important. Yeah, I think that's really valid. Yeah,
very true.
Absolutely.
Very true. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you very, very much, lovely people. What an honor it was. What a pleasure it was to share this 50 minutes with you guys, and for everybody who joined us. So thank you very much. Happy Valentine's Day. Maybe just have a lovely conversation, a lovely dinner, a lovely very good.
You know,
see,
it
that
works.
makes flowers
You know
still, after 40 years, flowers still make my day today.
Absolutely.
You know?
Really important. You've got to
thank
have
you
them.
so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you very, very much. Thank you, everybody.
Pleasure.
And look forward to seeing everybody around. Thank you. Bye-bye. Namaste.
Bye.
Bye.
Namaste.
Thank you. Bye.